poor mother returned home looking weak and very pale. Her cute daughter excitedly welcomed her. But the mother couldn't hold on and fainted to the floor. The little girl, now worried and crying helplessly, tried to wake her mother up. With little strength, the mother regained consciousness and told her daughter that she had a fever. The little girl, not knowing what else to do, brought a bowl of water and a towel to wipe her mother while crying bitterly. The mother then told the little girl to call her father. When she called him and asked him to come home, he shouted at her, saying that since her mother had taken his money, she should stop acting weak. He added that her being able to call him meant she wasn't dying anytime soon. Some men are strange. They prefer to believe lies rather than face the truth. When the husband heard his daughter's voice in the background telling her mother not to cry, he thought his wife was pretending. Meanwhile, the little girl sat beside her mother, crying helplessly as she watched her grow weaker by the second. With her last breath, the mother tried to touch her little daughter one last time, but even that was impossible. She finally passed away. The little girl mourned bitterly and refused to let go of her mother, crying until she fell asleep in her dead mother's arms. The story begins with a woman named Li Mei, who was teaching her daughter, Susu. When her husband, Feng, came home, Li Mei and Susu went to welcome him. However, without acknowledging them, he demanded that Li Mei go to the hospital to donate her bone marrow to his childhood sweetheart, Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei also walked in, looking healthier and more seductive than Li Mei. Susu told her father she missed him and that it had been a long time since he came home. But Feng didn't care. Instead, he grabbed Li Mei's arm and accused her of being cold-hearted for not wanting to fulfill Zhang Wei's request. He said Zhang Wei had even come all the way to their house to beg her. Li Mei told him she was sick and needed to take care of Susu, but Feng didn't care. He dragged her toward the door. When Susu tried to stop him, Zhang Wei pushed the little girl to the ground. Angry, Li Mei shouted at Zhang Wei not to touch her daughter. Feng then threatened to stop paying for Susu's kidney dialysis if Li Mei didn't go to the hospital with him. Li Mei begged him, saying he couldn't be so cruel to his own daughter. But Feng, still furious, accused Li Mei of being unfaithful and refused to listen to her explanation. Here's the irony. When the truth finally comes out, men like Feng will be the first to ask why their wife didn't explain everything earlier. After Feng's threats, Li Mei gave in and went with him to the hospital. In the surgery room, Feng comforted Zhang Wei and ignored Li Mei. Zhang Wei pretended to thank Li Mei for her donation, but Feng coldly called her useless and said she should feel honored to help Zhang Wei. The doctor wheeled Zhang Wei away, leaving Li Mei on the surgery bed. As Feng left, Li Mei held his hand and asked for the dialysis fee. He threw the money in her face and said he never wanted to see her again. It seems the devil heard his wish this time and decided to grant it. Li Mei picked up the money, grateful that Susu would live another month, even though she didn't care about her own health. The doctor asked if Li Mei should be moved to the general ward, but Feng said he didn't care as long as she stayed alive. A nurse came to help Li Mei to the ward, but Li Mei insisted on going home because her daughter was alone. The nurse reminded her that she needed to rest for 24 hours after surgery, but Li Mei refused and ran out of the hospital. This is where the story begins. Feng took Zhang Wei to his house. Zhang Wei asked, "Even though I gave Li Mei so much money to move out, why is she still living in your apartment with Susu? Won't she one day use the girl to ask for more money?" Feng replied, "She only uses dirty tricks to take money from me." Later, Feng ran into one of his neighbors. When he asked about Li Mei, the woman told him that Li Mei had died some time ago and that she was the one who found her body. Feng was shocked. The story flashes back to what happened after Li Mei died. After her death, Susu stayed alone with her mother's body. She either couldn't accept that her mother was gone or didn't understand what had happened. Feng had called Li Mei, asking her to finalize the divorce because Zhang Wei's health was improving. He told her he would give her money but no more attention, or else she and Susu would be kicked out of the house. When Susu answered the call, she called Feng Dad. He told her not to call him that and to tell her mother to stop pretending to be dead and take the phone. Susu replied, "Mom is sleeping." Feng accused her mother of trying to trick him and hung up. Susu tried calling him again, but he had switched off his phone. Susu pulled her mother's hand, crying that her father didn't want them anymore. She said, "Mom, you've been sleeping for too long. Please wake up and tell me fairy tales." She brought food and tried feeding her mother, saying she was hungry and asking her mother to wake up and cook for her. But when there was no response, Susu cried herself to sleep in her mother's cold arms. The next day, Susu woke up and wiped her mother's face, saying she looked pale. She noticed her mother's arms were heavier than before. She went to get an apple to feed her mother later, but when there was still no response, she burst into tears. Her cries were heard by a neighbor, who knocked on the door repeatedly. When no one answered, the neighbor got the security guard to open the door. What she saw broke her heart. She rushed to take Susu away but realized that Li Mei was dead. Back in the present, Feng asked the neighbor when Li Mei had died. She explained it was shortly after she returned from donating her bone marrow while she was still sick. The news shook Feng, making him stumble in fear. The neighbor added that Susu stayed by her mother's side and almost starved to death, but she was taken to the hospital in time. When Feng realized Susu's words on the phone were true, Zhang Wei quickly distracted him. She accused the neighbor of lying and said Li Mei was alive and just trying to scare Feng into returning to her. Zhang Wei claimed Li Mei wanted Feng to raise another man's child. Believing Zhang Wei's lies, Feng accused the neighbor of making up stories and demanded to know where Li Mei was. Zhang Wei encouraged him, saying the neighbor was helping Li Mei with her plan. Angry, Feng grabbed the neighbor and pushed her to the ground. Li Mei's ghost, watching everything, tried to help the woman but couldn't touch her. The neighbor blamed Feng for letting Zhang Wei manipulate him and for being blind to the truth. Zhang Wei stood nearby with an evil grin on her face. Feng insulted Li Mei, saying she was a woman who loved jumping into men's beds. The neighbor defended Li Mei, saying she would never do such a thing. Feng told the neighbor he would pay her double whatever Li Mei paid for her lies. He warned that if Li Mei didn't appear within 3 days, he would let Susu die in front of him. It seemed the devil had truly decided to grant all Feng's wishes that week. The scene moves to Susu, who has been admitted to the hospital. Breaking news announces the rapid success of Feng's company and shows him introducing his girlfriend at a press conference. He appears in Susu's hospital room and tries to hug her sadly. Then, she watches the news and sees Feng praising Zhang Wei. This breaks her heart. The nurses come in and sadly discuss how Susu's medical treatment has been stopped for a month. They say if the bills are not paid, she will be transferred to the general ward. One nurse approaches Susu and asks for her father's contact information, but Susu says she doesn't know it because she has never been close to him. She gives her mother's number instead, but it's unreachable. Li Mei, standing by as a ghost, feels sad for her daughter. She cries over Feng's betrayal and abandonment. We are then taken back to when Feng was poor and dating Li Mei. They went to a club to meet a businessman named Sun Yang to borrow money for Feng's business. To show their sincerity, they had to drink, but Sun Yang wasn't satisfied. He demanded Feng give Li Mei to him. When Sun Yang tried to force himself on Li Mei, Feng hit him on the head with a bottle, injuring him. They escaped the club, but Li Mei picked up Sun Yang's business card. Later, after sending Feng away, Li Mei returned to Sun Yang and begged him to help Feng, saying she was willing to do anything. She agreed to serve him. When Feng came back to the club to look for Li Mei, he found her in Sun Yang's arms. To protect Feng, she publicly broke up with him, claiming he was poor and she couldn't live in poverty anymore. Every word she said hurt her deeply because it wasn't true. Heartbroken, Feng believed her and began hating her. Back in the present, Zhang Wei suggested that since Susu was in the hospital, Li Mei might be hiding there too. They rushed to the hospital. When they arrived, the nurse asked Feng to pay for Susu's treatment. He denied being her father and aggressively questioned Susu about her mother's whereabouts. Li Mei watched helplessly as Feng humiliated Susu. It turns out Susu was conceived because Feng forced himself on Li Mei. When Feng couldn't contact Li Mei, he decided to take things too far. He demanded the hospital discharge Susu. The nurse explained that Susu was in critical condition and could die if removed from the hospital, but Feng refused to listen. He called a locksmith to force open the door and took Susu home, leaving her under his assistant's care. Susu told Feng her mother was in heaven and that she wanted them to go meet her, but Feng dismissed it, saying she was just a child. He stormed into the house, shouting for Li Mei to come out, threatening that Susu would die if she didn't show herself. In his rage, he uncovered a mourning picture of Li Mei on a table surrounded by mourning items. Feng froze in disbelief, refusing to accept she was truly dead. Zhang Wei called him, insisting that Li Mei was hiding and making things difficult for them. After the call, Feng smashed the picture and cried bitterly. Later, he ordered the guards to keep Susu in the car without medical attention, vowing to make Li Mei suffer when she learned about Susu's death. He then received a call that Zhang Wei had fainted and rushed to her ward. There, he bumped into Sun Yang, who taunted him about Li Mei. Feng grew angrier when Sun Yang hinted at Zhang Wei's deception. Feng still didn't believe Li Mei was dead and hired a private investigator. Eventually, the investigator confirmed her death, even showing surveillance footage of her final moments. Feng went into shock. find her in the afterlife and stay with her. At home, Feng mourned for both his wife and daughter. He burned Susu's stickers in front of their pictures. Li Mei's ghost appeared and blamed him for Susu's death, saying he didn't deserve to be a father. Zhang Wei came in and tried to pull Feng up from the floor, but he pushed her away. He shouted that no one could insult his wife and daughter. Zhang Wei tried to convince him that Susu wasn't his daughter, but in anger, he pushed her so hard that she fell. She accused him of wanting to reconcile with Li Mei and told him to beg Li Mei for another bone marrow transplant for her leukemia. Finally, Feng confronted her with the truth. Turned out Zhang Wei wasn't sick at all. She had been lying and using his emotions to create problems between him and Li Mei. Li Mei's ghost watched them argue. She wished she would never meet Feng again in the next life. As Zhang Wei stormed out, Feng's assistant came in holding Li Mei's urn wrapped in a blanket. Feng regretted everything he had ever done to Li Mei. She had been willing to sacrifice herself so he could become wealthy, and now that he was rich, he had caused her death. Feng then ordered his assistant to sell his billion-dollar company. He didn't care about the money anymore, he just wanted to be with his wife and daughter. Susu and Li Mei, now reunited as ghosts, watched from afar. They were happy together, but they saw Feng sinking deeper into depression. He became numb and had no desire to live. One day, Feng went into the kitchen and turned on the gas. When his assistant arrived, Feng instructed him to donate all his wealth in the name of his wife and daughter. Then he sent the assistant away, intending to die in the gas-filled house. He felt his wife's presence and searched for her but couldn't find her. Holding a picture of his wife and daughter, he took a bottle of sleeping pills and cried. As he died, he saw their ghosts waving goodbye to him. The story ended with Feng joining his family in the afterlife.